on this computer. Okay, we have a lot of members who don't have a clue what metadata is, or a lot of new people who have just started using Lightroom or just started photography. So I thought there's a lot to this topic, and I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail about metadata, but when we did our watermark discussion about a year ago, we got into metadata some then, and what the difference is. So a watermark goes on your photo and you apply it on your photo and people can see it on your photo. So, you know, mine says Cam's Camera Shots Photography on my photo. I know Tom has one too. He puts on his. Some of you, I know Wayne does, and he puts a copyright symbol on all of his photos on the outside of the actual photo. The problem with only having the copyright information there, of course, is that it can easily be cloned out, cropped out, content awared out, and it's gone, unless you have metadata. We also discovered, though, that metadata can be edited. So there's nothing that's foolproof, unless you do. I think Wayne's done this. Haven't you, Wayne, gone to Library of Congress and copyrighted some of your photos through Library of Congress? Have you done that, Wayne? No. Okay, it must be Howard that did that then. You can, and I think Gundar's does that, where you can actually copyright your photos through the Library of Congress. That's probably the only surefire thing for protecting your images. Now, why would you want to protect your images? You know, we put our photos on Facebook and Instagram all the time, so they're not really protected. But if, for example, you have this award-winning photo that's, you know, some amazing capture, and then you open up a magazine and see your photo in the magazine, and you were not contacted or given payment for that image, they just snatched it from, you know, somewhere, screenshotted it, then you want to be able to prove that it's your image, because you want remuneration or, you know, payment or credit for your photo. So it's happened a few times to people I know, not like big companies using photos, but for example, a visitors bureau for a county like Virginia Beach uses someone's photo on the cover of their promotional materials when they never asked Joe Blow if they could use his photo on the cover of their materials. Joe might have said, yes, sure, you know, if you give me credit, I'd be happy to have my photo out there. But, you know, when it's not, they didn't ask, you might have to prove that it was your photo. So that's where metadata comes in. Metadata is a bigger bucket of information than just your copyright information. So I have a little website that I'm going to share with you right now. Let me go here and share. Not this one. I think it was in Safari. This one. So what is metadata? So it says on this website that it's the story behind the photograph. So it tells how the image files were created, where and when. It can describe the content of the photo, identify the photographer, and show you how the image was edited in post-processing. So it gives a lot of information that's embedded into the photo. And it's searchable. The metadata is searchable. So if some people send photographs up to places like Getty Images and Flickr and iPhoto, these stock photos, I guess. And if you have searchable data, keywords, etc., embedded in your metadata, it makes your photo or your type of photo so much easier to find. But you can get really complicated with all this stuff. So here, for example, is a photo, and here are all the keywords that tagged along with the metadata that was in this photo. But we're not going to get too complicated here. All right, so basically you're going to want to have information come up when someone looks at your photo that shows your name and your copyright, and your date also. So we'll talk about the types of metadata. So first of all, EXIF, I didn't even know what these things stood for. EXIF is exchangeable image file. That's the data that's embedded in your photo by your camera. So when you take a photo, it will tell you what lens you used, whether the flash fired, what focal length it was, what the f-stop was, the shutter speed, ISO, all that jazz is embedded with that information in your photo when your digital camera takes that photo. And if you have a GPS enabled, it knows where you took that photo too, and the time you took it and the date you took it. Another thing that in a cell phone, usually you have location services enabled. So that will tell you where you took the photo too. Your GPS data will be there at a cell phone photo. So that you don't have to do anything for that. That EXIF data comes along your camera, supplies all that information to the photo when you import your photo into Lightroom, or when you import your photo or look at your photo in Photoshop. EXIF data, that's camera data. Then there is IPTC data. And IPTC stands for International Press Telecommunications Council. It's a standardized metadata format created for the use of media and press agencies. Included is the type of information they needed to publish a photo. Details like the title, the description, the location, the photographer, the copyright, the keywords, your name, your address, your phone number for contact information. All of that is IPTC data. And you need to physically enter that information. We'll do that tonight when I do my 2022 copyright preset. All right, and then XMP is another type of data. If you shoot RAW, like most of us do, the camera shows you a JPEG image on the back of your computer, your camera. You're seeing a JPEG image, not because a RAW file has to be converted so that it's visible on a monitor. So even if you just import your photo into Lightroom, Lightroom does a bunch of stuff to it that you don't even know it does so that you can see it. So it is processing your image behind the scenes just so that it's visible on the monitor. And it creates what's called this XMP file. Norma complains about it all the time, that when she does an export of photos, you see the CR2 or whatever they are files, and then the XMP files that go along with it. And you end up with these double files. And the XMP files, when you open it up, it just is a bunch of text. And the text is strictly everything that Lightroom did or you did in processing the file, whether you increased the luminance or whether you added a vignette or whether you increase the clarity. It's the recipe that is used for your edited photo. So anytime you look back in Lightroom at your photo, it pulls up the recipe to say, aha, here's how you baked this photo, okay? And here's how you cooked this one, a separate XMP file. It's the instructions for the editing. You don't see any of this though, it's all behind the scenes. So there's all kinds of data that happens. Now, you should also, just for the heck of it, check your time and your date in your camera to make sure that they are accurate, because your camera may not know that, we had daylight savings time change? I think mine's always off. All my photos look like I took them in the morning or something. I don't know. Anyway, I need to check that myself. Check your data, your date and time in your camera. But we're going to look down here. It says if you are a Photoshop user, only a Photoshop user, but I'm going to guess that all of us that are here tonight are Lightroom users. Am I correct? Is there anybody who is not a Lightroom user? Good. You're all Lightroom users. That makes sense. I'm coming to a Lightroom info here. All right, now I have some photos here on my desktop. Because, all right, this is one that Linda Agar Hendricks sent me for when I collected best 5 photos for New Year's. And here's the original file that she sent me. And I went up here to preview it. So if I just double click on it, it brings up preview. And if you go to view, no, tools, show inspector, we're going to inspect this file. All right. And here it is. This is the file. It's 2 megabytes when she created it. And then here's more information on this tab. And here's more, there's no more information there, but it shows that she took this with, if we look at this in Lightroom, it says she was using her iPhone. It'll actually say iPhone 13 Pro. So it'll give you a lot of specific information, but that's one way to look at that file. So let me open this one up in Photoshop, right click, open with, I'm not going to import them into Lightroom because I'll tell you why in a minute. Okay, so here we go to Photoshop, and now we can see the data on it by going to File and down here to File Info. Now, if we go up here to Basic, if we go up here, I need to hide these controls because they're floating in my way. Hide floating controls. Okay. All right. There's no information in here about her, I guess. There's no information about the copyright status. There is about when it was taken. Camera data, though, here we know it's an iPhone 13 Pro with a triple back camera and what the exposure was and what the size of the image was and stuff like that. Origin, there's nothing here. IPTC, now this is the one you need to input if you're going to input it, which would be your city, your state, your zip code, your phone number. All of that stuff can go in here if you want it to. Keywords could be added here to the info, the IPTC info. The GPS data is here because it was taken with a cell phone. So, and she had location services turned on. So we could go right to this GPS location and know where she took that water reflection. And then there's no more data here, I don't think, whatever all this other stuff is. I don't pretend to know this, but look at all this raw data. So she must have shot in RAW and has her camera set to shoot in RAW. But remember, in order for any program to see a file, it has to convert it so that we can see it as a JPEG. So this is all of what the camera did to it or the software did to it so that we could see it. She didn't do all this stuff. It's all XMP data. Photoshop had to do some of it to it so that we could see it too, I guess. Okay. So that's one file that I wanted to show you. All right, another file I want to show you. This one Alton Marsh sent me. So let me get info on that one. So it gives me the name of the photo. I better open it up in Photoshop. All right, right click, open with Photoshop. Same thing, file info. Okay, basic, author, Alton Marsh. So he does have some data, metadata set up in his Lightroom where he put that. Here it says copyright status is unknown, but he has instead typed in a copyright status, copyright 2021. All right, and then we know when he created it, what he took it with a Canon and all this jazz about the Canon. All right, and then under, he does have his name under IPTC, but he doesn't have his address or his phone number or his email or his website. So you can put all this information behind the scenes of your photos. And that hasn't been done in this case. Okay, so I'm gonna say okay on this, and I'm gonna close this. All right, now here's a raw file of mine. It's a raw file. So let me just open it with Photoshop first to see what it would do, not in Lightroom now, just a raw file. And whenever I open up a raw file that hasn't been converted yet, it has to go through Camera Raw first. So it opens it up like this. And I could diddle with it here. This is Lightroom, basically, in its original form before they made Lightroom better. So then we're going to just open this file. What the heck? Open it. All right. So I took this in January, I think. Let's go to File Info. So basic. I took it December 30th, 2021 with my Nikon Z50, my 500mm lens. Origin, I didn't have GPS or any in that information in there. IPTC, let's see, do I have anything in here like my creator that I created it? No, I must not have used any, I must not have used a preset that I have set up for Lightroom to embed the data. So I was bad. There's nothing in here that lets you know that this was my image, nothing. Now, do we have any EXIF data, raw data? Yes, this is what, I didn't do anything to that photo, nothing, but this is what the Camera Raw had to do to it to convert it to a viewable subject. It had to do all this. Just how have these developers designed this software is beyond me. Anyway, close. Now, don't save. Okay. Are there any questions so far about what any of that stuff I've just shown you? Nobody has a question. Okay, good. Is everybody still awake? Yes, I hope.
Yes.
All right, good.
Oh, yes.
Now I'm
Go
going to go to
ahead.
Lightroom. Okay, so in Lightroom, why don't I import some files first? No, I'm going to import files next. All right, up at the top we have, of course, you already know that we have all of these modules here: library, develop module, map module, etc. And in the library module, over here in this menu, metadata shows up when you're in the library module at the top. But when I go to the develop module, metadata disappears from this menu bar up here because you can't get to the metadata or do anything to edit the metadata in the develop module. So you need to be in the library module, or you can be over here in this panel on the right in the metadata area. But let me look at this metadata. Now, when did I go to Michigan? I went to Michigan in September and October of 2021. But looking at this metadata, the artist is Cam Miller. There's the creator is me. and it was copyrighted 2020 because I never updated my preset. There's a preset that you can create that will apply to every photo you import if that preset is active or selected, and it will import all that information. Unless you're paying attention to which preset you have in place, you might be copyrighting everything that's current from back in 2016. You know, it could be that you need to update. That's what Victoria Brampton was talking about when she said in this email to me, have you updated your presets? I thought, no, I have not. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to go up here to metadata and edit the presets. Now, there's a whole bunch of other stuff here too. And I don't pretend to know this stuff. I don't pretend to know. There's a way, for example, that I could select all of these photos and apply my new preset to so that they all come up with the right year on them. I don't know how, sync metadata. That's probably it right there. But I don't know how to do all that. That's something you all can look up if you need to do it or figure it out later. Anyway, I'm going to go to here to edit metadata presets. So it brings up my presets. They look like they're named custom, but if you do the little drop-down box, look at all the presets I've got. And you know why I have so many? It's because I taught Lightroom for a long time and I was always teaching how to set up a preset. So I'd have to name each one differently every time I did it so that Lightroom would think I had a new file there. So obviously I probably got this laptop in 2019 and I made 1, 2, 3 2019 copyrights, but I'm going to edit my 2020 copyright right now. I'll just edit this one. Now, you could create a whole brand new one, just starting right here. So let me create a brand new one and then I'll save it with a new name. Or you can edit your previous one, doesn't matter. But copy name, rating, label, and caption, I'm not going to fill in all that information. You can check it or uncheck it. The camera info rides along with the EXIF data. So I don't need to put all this in here. User comment, best camera I ever owned. I don't know what you put in there. IPTC content, headline, subject code. I don't know that stuff either. But remember, IPT was set up for publishers to use. So this information is there that publishers probably wanted their photo editors to have. I don't know. But here's where we want to do it now. Copyright, Cam Miller 2020. Status is usually default would be unknown. So you want to put copyrighted. Now you can put your name there like I did, or you can do, if you have a Mac, Option G will put the copyright symbol there. Option G. On a PC, I have it in another thing I can show you. It's a combination of, where is it? It's in this Victoria Brampton article about how to do this. She says, there was a tip in here to add a copyright symbol in the copyright field. Here it is. I'll put this in the chat. Okay. Close this. Close. And then where is the chat? I can't get to the chat right now. I've got it copied on the clipboard though, but it's like Alt and then 169 or something like that. We'll put the copyright symbol. So you can put the copyright symbol if you want, or just put your name and the year. All right. And then put your copyright status as copyrighted. Now, technically, they're not officially copyrighted unless you have filed it with the Library of Congress. And if you have some fantastic image, you know, that nobody else in the world will ever get, you don't want anybody snatching it, and you want to be paid for people to use this photo, then you're going to want to submit it to the Library of Congress and copyright that image. Anyway, rights usage terms, copyright info URL. I don't know what all that is. Here, my address, I want that in here. I'm going to put that in here.
Oh.
All right, creator city, Newmarket, MD. Newmarket. All right, state, MD, postal code 21774, country, USA, creator phone. No, I don't want them having my phone. Anybody having my phone unless I give it to them, but my email's fine. This is, you know, if this photo gets found somewhere, creator website. If you have one, great. I have one, but I need to update it or get rid of it. Okay, creator job title. Oh gosh, queen, whatever you want. Nobody sees these unless they bother to look at your metadata. None of this shows up on your image when somebody looks at your image. They would have to go looking at the metadata to see this information. The date the photo is created gets embedded in here, which is fine. You don't need to put all this stuff here unless I want to put that this was in Michigan on the H13 Hiawatha National Forest Highway, all that jazz. Remember, some of that information is important if it's being published. Other information might be possible, but if you put keywords in here, for example, let's see if there's keywords in here. Director of keywords. If you put those keywords in here, everything you import from here on out will have those keywords applied. So you don't want to put things like tree and Michigan and maple leaves, because every photo you import of a duck after that is going to say tree, Michigan, and maple leaves. So leave the keywords off unless you do the metadata for each individual photo, for example, that you're submitting to a stock photography, and then it makes it searchable by these keywords here in the metadata. But be careful what you put in the metadata, because it's going to get applied to everything you import. So I'm going to click done. Are there any questions about anything that I've just done here? I did what I felt was the important stuff. So now I'm going to click done. And it's going to say, do you want to save the changes as a new preset? Save as CAM's copyright 2022. Create. Now, what happens? I'm going to close Lightroom. Yes. Skip it this time, the backup. Don't skip the backup every time. Skip it sometimes. And I'm going to go here to these photos that I've got. Let's see these photos here. DCIM. Okay, so I'm going to take this little batch of whatever this is, and I'm going to put them on my external drive, which, do I have it hooked up? Yes. So this is my little import routine. So I'm going to come over here and go to my passport. And this is not really my main computer. This is my travel computer, but I'm going to go to my master photo file, and I'm going to call this, because I have no idea what's on there. I'm going to call it miscellaneous. All right, so I'm going to create a new folder and call it miscellaneous. Miscellaneous. Oops, EOUS. Okay, and I'm going to take these photos, I'm going to put them here. All right, so they're copying over. I have no idea. I know there's an eagle in there, but that's about it. All right, now I'm going to import this batch of photos into Lightroom. And I import differently than most people import. I drag and drop. So I drag, oops, I'm going to take this photo, these photos here. Come on. My passport. Okay, drag and drop. And it's going to bring up the import screen. And that's where you need to make this change. Once you've set up the preset, over here, apply during preset, during import. Metadata, pick the 2022 copyright information. That's what I want imported and with these photos. All right, and here we have develop settings. We haven't even, I don't think I've ever gone into this, but you can tell it that you always want to have it do, you know, this amount of grain, this amount of sharpening, this amount of, or whichever one of these styles. You can have these things automatically added for the color, for example, or what is this? Creative, black and white, portraits, defaults. You can also add this stuff to your photos. It's automatically does that to your photos when you apply. It'll automatically add a certain amount of vignetting or whatever. I don't do that though. Now, you can also add keywords here if you want to. Because I already put my photos in a folder where I know what they are, I don't bother with keywords here, but these keywords would apply to everything that's in this import. And I don't want to apply keywords that are always to this whole thing here. There's going to be a moon and an eagle in here. So I'm not going to import any keywords here. All right, and then I'm going to import. So once I have imported those photos, now I'm going to go over here to the library and pick a photo. And let's look at the metadata. So it is you can tell it what kind of metadata you want. All that stuff. EXIF and IPTC is pretty much what you need though. So EXIF is what the camera information that traveled with the photo. And then so here it all is, you know, what focal length I used, what exposure it was, all that jazz. And then down here, my name, my phone number, not my phone number, my address. And my status should be down here that it's copyrighted. Where is it? Copyrighted, and there's my name. Now I should have put 2022 right there at Cam Miller, or copyrighted Cam Miller 2022. So now if I need to, I'm going to go back here to this library, to the metadata, and I can edit the preset, and I can come down here and make sure that it is my 2022 preset. Okay, and I'm going to add 2022 here, done, and save it. Okay, so now the next time I import photos, that will look a little bit different. Okay, so maybe I can sync it. Let's see. Can I Command A to select all of those? Metadata, sync metadata. Edit the preset, save metadata to files. Save metadata to these files. Yeah, whatever. I'm just seeing what happens here because I don't really care. No, it didn't put that there. All right. I don't know how to make that work, except, you know, delete that folder and re-import them if I really wanted that little change to be right there. Are there any questions about
Nope.
what I've done. All right, now if we're going to go to export a photo, I'm going to export all 8 of these files. I can come down here and I want to have all the metadata. Maybe you have choices here. You can remove the Lightroom, the location info if you had your GPS turned on, for example, or you could remove person info if you had people labeled in your photo in the metadata. So you can tell it, maybe you want just the copyright information only, or just the copyright and the contact information only. And that's the only metadata that will export with the photo. So you have export choices for what you do for the metadata. So that would travel along with your photo, your digital photo, not visible to anybody unless they open it up in Lightroom or if they open it up in Photoshop. Now, the reason I opened up those photos from Alton and Linda in Photoshop was if I had imported them into Lightroom and then looked at the metadata, whose metadata would have been there? Mine, because that preset would have imported all that data from my 2020 preset or 2019 preset, whatever I had in there, onto their photos. It would have overwritten it. So I have to be careful when I'm pulling in other people's photos, I guess, and not apply my copyright date to Linda Agar Hendricks's photo. So I got to be careful not to do that. All right, so that's it. Does anybody have any questions about any of this while I'm in Lightroom? No. Okay. Let's look at a photo then. Let's look at the photo. Let's look at this. Let me take a photo of mine. Let me export one of those. Okay, let me export all 8 of them. What the heck? Export. Export them with this copyright, etc., to the desktop and put them in a folder called resize. Sure, export. All right, so I'm exporting my 8 photos that are here that I didn't even edit. They're just photos. They're going out to the desktop. And then I want to open one up in Photoshop and show you the metadata that is now should be on these files in Photoshop. So they're in this photo folder called resized. Okay, so I'm going to take this one, at least we can see what it is, and open it with Photoshop now. All right, and then if we go to File, Info, IPTC data, there it is, my address, my email, my creator, and then copyright information. It should be down in here somewhere. Copyright right here at Cam Miller, and it doesn't say 2022 because remember, I didn't re-import them with the modified preset, but it should say somewhere in here that it is copyrighted. IPTC extension, camera data, basic data, copyrighted right there. Okay, so it is copyrighted. Remember when I brought up Alton's, he had words there, but it said copyright status was unknown. Okay, so mine does say that it's copyrighted right there. So, okay. All right, so had any of you already done this? Or did you do it because you saw it in the email, or did you do it you're already because you're all good? When the calendar changes, you do things like you're supposed to do and not wait 2 years to get it done like I did.
I set mine up so that I have copyright for every year. and then I match it with the photo's date. So if the photo was taken in, say, 2020, I have a copyright 2020. And then if it's 2019, I have copyright 2019. And I try to match the copyright to each photo.
That's what I should have
And
done.
the date. And the date.
Yeah. I think it's better on my upstairs computer, like I said, but this is my
I mean,
travel.
a lot of it is
computer.
habit. You know, it's habit.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Wayne, do you have your metadata set up like that? Are you gonna set up your metadata like that?
Yeah, we'll see.
It's not too hard. All right, let me go in the chat and give you that link, Command V from okay, so to do the on Windows, it's while type, hold down the Alt key, then you type 0169, and that will give you the copyright symbol. And then on a Mac, it's Option G will give you the copyright symbol. Paul, did you have copyright set up or metadata set up in your computer?
Excuse me. Yes,
Good.
I've been spending the past 10 days going through my every drive, every folder. I've had the bad habit over the years of every time I was afraid of losing stuff, I would copy entire directories of Lightroom and stick it over here and another drive. And then I found out they're all over the place. And so I decided I wanted to have one master catalog that I am going to, once I get it cleaned up and ready to go, I'm going to put it in the cloud, have it automatically back up every day, and then work with it directly there, so that I don't have photos everywhere. Because a lot of times I'm even doing this now, that sometimes I download photos that that other people have taken that are interesting looking, you know, that I might want to try to copy that technique, and they would be in a folder here or a folder over there, and then I'd forget about them. And I've decided I created a folder this week in my Lightroom catalog called Not My Photos, and I'm dropping those in there, and I'm importing them into Lightroom so that I can look at them when I need to get inspiration for something. And so, my whole goal was not to have images scattered every single place it's possible for them to be scattered. Because I found I had stuff out in Google Photos, stuff over on Microsoft, they have that OneDrive thing if you're running a PC, stuff from my old Mac. I had like 2 or 3 external hard drives that I had used to back up extra copies, because I was paranoid about losing a copy. So I had like 3 external hard drives, each has a copy of my Lightroom catalog on it. And now what I've done is I've been consolidating everything. I took those external drives, they're SSD, they're small drives. I took them out of their cases, and today I put them in this case here, which has now, those are 4 drives, 4 1 terabyte drives that I can use for whatever. And this case was like $60. And now I'm reusing those drives, which have been sitting on my shelf, not being used for several years now. So
Good. But once you have put, 85,000 photos on the cloud, have you tried doing that before, that massive amount?
it takes a while the first time it does it. The first time you do a backup of something like that, it takes forever. It might take all day.
Mine said 37 days. And after 4 days, I turned it off. I just gave up.
Whoa.
37 days. So I don't know.
What did you use for the cloud service?
I don't know. It was a while, Backblaze or something. I don't know. It was a while ago.
There's supposed to be a decent service. I don't know. I mean, you still have the danger. Do you have something that isn't in your home where you have all your photos?
No, I don't. Oh, well, I have all my cell phone photos back themselves up to Amazon. But,
God
you
forbid
know,
your house burned down or
I
you had a
know,
fire, then it would be gone, right?
right. Well,
Or
you know, I
someone,
have some
can stole
important
your
ones on my website, I guess, but that's so out of date.
yeah,
It's terrible.
I have most of mine backed up to an external drive and that's in a fireproof box that I
That's
save
good.
here.
Yeah.
When I was working, I used to take it into work. I said, there it is. But
Right.
you know, now it's
Right.
yeah.
it's home with me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
know. You know, I
paranoid
got
about-
the rest of my life to take new photos, so. That's
There's
my
also
thing. I love
photos-
just going
There
out
are
as a
photos
thrill
on
of the
Facebook
hunt.
too. Yeah, there are photos on Facebook too. So that some there.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, low quality, but yeah,
Well, yeah.
I know. Oh, well. Okay, so any questions about metadata? I mean, I think it's interesting how much data is out there. It can be.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
ask you Wednesday night.
Okay. Norma and I are going to try to go to Blackwater. It's kind of frozen there, but we'll be all right, I guess. The geese will slide on the ice when they land.
I said curly
Slip and
geese.
slide.
Oh, boy.
From a fallen warrior, I just say be careful.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, we mainly shoot from the car. Don't worry about that.
Oh,
Hey, we have our little crampon things. Remember those?
Yeah, yeah. We're not going to need them.
No, I don't
by
think
the
so.
way, I put out the name of the application that the name of the one that creates the keywords for you automatically. It's an AI tool. It's on
Oh,
the chat.
Exire photos.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Exire, EXCIRE photo, FOTOS. There you go, Diane. It'll be.
I
in-
know, I saw that. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So that was it. My original topic, because on another previous chat, I mentioned HDR and somebody said, what's HDR? And I thought, you know, we've got some new people who really don't know what it is, or it got such a bum rap so many years ago that people stopped using it. And now, I mean, that,
Well, a lot of people started over crunching it.
well, yeah,
And
that
so
was fun.
It was a lot of fun, but you know.
But anyway, it's what real estate photographers do all the time. I mean, that's their main thing is they use HDR. So anyway, I was going to go over what HDR is, but you know, that's another time, another topic. So but I
Perfect.
thought this is timely. We need to get our metadata straight. So, and I know there are some people that will look at this later, not they couldn't come tonight, but they'll look at it later. So and maybe they'll update their metadata files. So all
Well, it's
right.
all good information, Cam. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
it
Mhm.
is.
Oh,
It is.
most valuable. Yes. Yes.
All right, guys, that's it
Thank
for
you.
tonight. Then
All
don't
right.
forget
Thanks.
photos to Paul for the monthly. I haven't done it yet. I'm a procrastinator, but we might get some good ones this week. So when we go to Blackwater, okay.
Procrastinate. What's that?
Procrastinate, yeah. I'll tell you later.
You can look that up
Yep.
All
Have
righty.
fun.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
Good
everybody.
night.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Cam.
Uh-huh.
Good night.